Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Slip Safety Show. My name's Christian Harris, and as well as being your host, I'm the founder of Slip Safety Services. My guest today is Graeme Hinde, who is the founder of LFX, which is a leisure networking group, which he'll tell us about as we get into the main part of the show and the interview with him. He's a really nice guy, as you'll see, really knows his stuff around the industry. He's worked his way up from operations, and he's got some interesting things to say about how the sector responded to the coronavirus, how it's fighting back against the coronavirus, and some interesting stories about his past as well. Also, he's done a bit of a pivot in terms of offering events on online platforms now, so we get into Zoom and how all that works as well. So I think a really interesting episode of the show, particularly for anybody in leisure, but more widely as well. I think you'll get some great value and insight from what Graeme has to say. As always, we'd really appreciate if you could subscribe so that you can be kept up to date with future episodes. And also, if you've got any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from being made aware of the show, I'd very much love it if you could introduce them to us and send them our way, and hopefully we'll try and keep them educated and entertained as we, fingers crossed, are doing for you too. So with that, let's get into the chat with Graeme Hinde. Graeme Hinde, welcome to the Slip Safety Show.
Thank you very much, Christian. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, nice to have you. You and I caught up recently, and we were having quite an in-depth chat about everything that's going on. We're recording this in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak, and lots of interesting things happening. So I thought it would be useful to get you on, particularly given your background, and you're really well connected in the industry. You used to be involved in UK Active, or FIA as it was back then. Big, nice, bigging up of your accomplishments there. Do you want to give the audience a bit of a overview of who you are and what you do and some of the stuff you've done in the past? Just a bit of context.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, at the moment, my main focus, my business LFX, is I've been running now for 14 years. We do networking events for people that work in the fitness industry. We do two types of event. One is very much aimed, shall we say it, at everyone, which are our main events. But we also do fitness events where we focus on fit pros and developing their talents and skills, and bringing new industry things to them so they can have a look. Our roots are in the north of England, but we've done events all over the UK, to be honest, over the last 14 years. And we've seen a lot of change along the way, particularly in local government. But yeah, my background before that was really in operational management, to be honest with you, with Total Fitness, and prior to that with Wigan Council, as it then was, and Serco. So I've worked in ops as well as running my own business.
Yeah. I think everybody that's got to a certain level in the industry has done something in ops, haven't they, at some point in time?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
for their sins. And as I say, we're kind of just into when we're recording this, just into the second 3-week lockdown period. What have you seen, and heard and spoken about with your contacts in the industry in terms of the response over the last few weeks, and how do you think that people have been dealing with the crisis overall within the sector?
Well, I suppose starting with the employer situation, whichever side, side of the fence, public, private. I think the government have done a good job in terms of supporting, all of us in terms of income, etc., as well as best they can. I think the response from the industry has been very good. I'm not sure it's been particularly coordinated. I just feel
Mm.
that the likes of yourself, myself, others on LinkedIn, for example, are offering a lot of advice and a lot of support. But I wouldn't say that there's been a joined up kind of approach. I think there's been people doing their own thing and taking advice as and when they need it.
Mm.
But the upshot for me is that really the conversations I have, Christine, are very much from people who are trying to guess what will come next. And
Yeah.
I think as we speak today, there's been a little spike, shall we say, in sadly, the number of fatalities in hospitals.
Mm.
And therefore you start to think, just as maybe we're going to start seeing the trend drop in terms of deaths, it then starts to make you wonder, I know there was a meeting today, government meeting, to do with whether we should all have to wear face masks, for example. So we're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that people are therefore still trying to guess when they'll be allowed to reopen gyms, etc. And if they do, what will that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I got a bit of a sense over the last couple of days, and we're talking on Tuesday, the 21st of April, that there was a bit of renewed optimism, because I think the view seemed to be, or the consensus view seemed to be, that we've got the second period of 3 weeks, and then after that, the likelihood is that there'll be some sort of announcement around reopening. Not necessarily that we're going to reopen now, but there'll be some sort of timetable that we can start planning for. And my phone, for example, has been calling more over the last couple of days, both from people in the leisure sector and elsewhere, than it has been for the last few weeks combined. Probably, it's fair to say. But yeah, still so much uncertainty. Very, very difficult to plan, because it's quite a complex business, isn't it? A leisure club.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, my personal feeling and talking. I mean, I was doing a session like this for LFX yesterday with Dave Stalker, and we talked about the whole. We actually touched on marketing, but there's a reason for that, and that's that I don't know what it's like where you live, but what I sense through my friends is that they really are keen to get back out to the local restaurants, the local bars, the local shops, etc. It's almost as though this real community thing is built from it, and everyone wants to look after each other. And I think, I suspect that we will see the same in our industry. And I actually have a feeling that local independents will do quite well, for example, and local leisure centres will do well, and local branches of the bigger chains will do well, and therefore my point being that I think that the message should be a lot more local than national. If you run a chain of clubs, I really do. I think operators should now focus on, I live in Warrington, so it should be all about David Lloyd Warrington, Exercise for Warrington, Pure Gym Warrington, which it is to an extent, but I really feel there needs to be a true ownership of that for the local community.
Yeah, we've got quite an active. I'm in Southeast London, and we've got quite an active kind of local forum, and there's been a lot of stuff on there about supporting local businesses. And I do think that there's going to be, one of the positives that comes out of this horrendous situation is a renewed kind of in it together feeling. And I think you're right, that will exhibit itself through locality, probably first and foremost, because I think people are still going to be a bit fearful about going too far from home, and they're going to be avoiding, because we're doing things like this Zoom, people are going to be avoiding traveling too far. I think a lot of companies are still going to have people working from home, and therefore, if your gym is near your office, you might not go there. So yeah, I think you're right there. Be interesting to see if all of these predictions that we're making come true or not.
Absolutely.
So you think that we're kind of beyond the firefighting phase then? Is that fair to say in your conversations with operators? If there was a
Yeah,
firefighting stage, I don't know.
I think so. I certainly did at the end of last week. I
Mm.
certainly think people were looking forward. We did the 3 weeks, and definitely some renewed confidence. I had a couple of messages from people just asking me, when do you think that lockdown will end and we'll be able to open our gyms again? And I wish I knew.
Yeah.
But I do think that possibly this week, particularly today, because the figures weren't good,
No.
and it just I worry. I wasn't worried up until today. I'm now a little worried that they might toughen up the lockdown measures.
Mm.
It's only a few days ago, I think the Times reported that there would be a traffic light system, wouldn't there, for ending the lockdown, and
Mm.
firstly schools would open, but then Michael Gove said no, they won't, certainly not on the date he's suggesting. So
Mm.
I think it's very much up in the air. I do think that operators are very, very much ready. I think there is a lot of scenario planning going on. I think that we've got some brilliant brains in our industry, and particularly the operators.
Mm.
And I think that some of the plans that are out there I've been really impressed with Kate Atwater and Community Leisure. I think some of
Yeah.
the stuff they've been doing has been exceptional, and it
Mm.
stood out. And I'm getting chief execs saying that to me. So there's some. Andy King wrote a piece. Andy
Yeah.
King from Link for Life. Which I'm sure you saw on LinkedIn,
Mm.
and his thoughts. And some very intelligent people out there who are putting their ideas and their thoughts out, and trying to support each other.
Mm. Mm.
So I do think that there's a readiness. I just think now there's still the guessing game going on, isn't there?
Yeah, the uncertainty. Yeah. I can't think of her name now, but the lady that leads the UK Hospitality Association, she might be called Kate as well. Actually, I can't remember now, but she's been doing a really good job as well.
Okay.
So it must
Yeah.
be something about not to criticise any males leading industry associations, but there seems to be something about ladies leading hospitality and leisure
Yeah.
membership organisations that are doing particularly well. Tara as well, doing a good job with Simsborough. I think they've been very proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the job Tara's done over the recent years has been phenomenal, to be honest with you. To drag, our industry and create a proper career structure and framework, I think has been. It's taken a special kind of person to do that. And I know Tara thinks she's really funny. She's not, but she's very good at her job. I hope she's not watching. Well, I hope she is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking to her tomorrow, not for this, but I've just got a call with her tomorrow, so I'll tell her all the good things you said, and I'll ignore the
Yeah.
So what are you doing kind of on a personal and a business level then to be able to help? You're obviously having conversations with lots of people, but you can't run real life events at the moment. So what sorts of things are you out there doing and supporting people with?
On a personal level, I've actually been shopping for some neighbours, older neighbours. One really made me laugh, Christian, because she told me she needed just a few things that she'd ordered from Asda on a click and collect thing. Now, I'd never used this. Yeah, I'd never used this click and collect. And I'm glad that my car has a substantial boot in it. That's all I'll say, because she'd ordered about £190 worth of stuff, which it tickled me, to be honest. But yeah, so, little bits like that. And then from a business perspective, I've literally just, on Thursday, I've got an event on Zoom. It's the first one I'll have done. So one of those.
Yeah.
But we'd scheduled an event to be held up in the northeast on Thursday, which is all around, it's a repeat of one we've done a couple of times, and it's very, very popular, which is all around mental health and what can we in the fitness industry do to support people with mental illness, etc., etc. So I'm still going to do that, and we're going to do it on Zoom, and the LFX members will be able to drop in and listen to various speakers. We'll probably have 3 speakers, 1 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and I say speakers, they're guests, and I'll be doing this, exactly what we're doing now. So I'll be doing that. Hopefully, we might, the next well, again, who knows? The next scheduled event we have is at the end of June. So
there's a chance there might be an opportunity to do something, but who knows?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility, but it doesn't. You wouldn't you wouldn't put your mortgage on it, would you?
No, absolutely not. And I think, I do think, as you said earlier, I do think that this will become, the more I've looked at Zoom and the other platforms, I've realised that there's a lot more value that I could add into the LFX calendar just by doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's easy, because you don't have to. People don't have to make the effort of getting up and planning to be somewhere and traveling, and you can, especially if you can do sort of more bite-sized stuff. You could do like lunchtime sessions, and you could probably get a really good attendance for something over Zoom. Particularly now, people are kind of more appreciative of it and understand it better and stuff. I've been doing a few, as I'm sure you have, like webinars as well, just as like a guest, and there's been some really cool stuff around breakout rooms and things like that. So you can even, when you do like a presentation and then you say, right, you on this table have a chat, and you can even do that on here as well. So it's it's really good.
You see, no, I didn't know that. So I really am learning. I'm a northern lad. I'm not the brightest. I'm still learning about Zoom, and
I didn't know it until it happened to me. I was just in this thing, and the host said, "Oh, we're going to put you into breakout rooms to have a chat about the first half an hour or whatever it was of this thing." Oh, that's interesting. But it worked well. So it's interesting, isn't it? Technology, and I mean, have you seen? Obviously, this is a very specific thing, but in terms of the industry and maybe particularly around the fitness instructor side, which is a big chunk of what you're doing with LFX, how have you seen technology develop and change that role, and what those guys and girls need to be aware of over the years?
I think one of the things that I'd sort of taken for granted really was that younger people. My daughter's a PT. She's 20 years old. She uses Instagram. She uses all the bits and bobs, FaceTime, that kind of thing with her clients. And so there was a. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a whole different ball game now. But for her, the transition to, if you like, a digital kind of thing was pretty straightforward. She'd already been doing offers and that kind of thing on her Instagram. So I do think that this whole raw kind of workout video now that's a bit amateurish and a bit rough around the edges is actually quite popular.
Well, it's authentic, isn't it? I think it's like I don't know if you do any like marketing videos where you're just sat talking at your phone or your camera or whatever, but sometimes people kind of go overboard and overproduce them, and it comes across a bit fake and a bit, whereas actually if you're just sitting down and talking and doing what you do and it's authentic, I think people can see that, can't they?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why, if you're ultimately, if you're a personal trainer and your personality comes through, that's all that really matters, I think, to your clients. So, yeah, I've seen that. I've also seen, some of the leisure trusts, Burnley, for example, have been doing some really good stuff. There's a guy called Darren McWalters who works for St. Helens Council. He's doing brilliant workouts. I mean, I rang Darren today because he's in the wrong job. He should be on the TV.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking fella. He's got he was doing a workout on Zoom the other day, and he's got 3 daughters, and the youngest one, I think she's about 3, and she just came toddling into the garden and looking at daddy, you know, that kind of thing, and it had that real authentic feel to it. So you know, some people, and I'm just mentioning a couple, that there'll be loads across the industry doing some brilliant stuff, and adapting, you know, to the current situation.
It'll be interesting to see, you know, whether, as you said, I think people are keen to kind of get back to the restaurants and the pubs and the whatever. But I think, you know, it'd be interesting to see whether actually, because there are so many good offers digitally now for fitness, you know, is that going to be a bit of a sort of unintended consequence of maybe people won't be returning as quickly or in as many numbers into the clubs, whether they'll be, you know, used to working out at home and getting their fix that way.
Yeah, I think the little, when you said as quickly, I think that's definitely an issue. I don't think people will return quickly. I also think it depends on when the lockdown ends, because if it's sunny and warm, if it's August, for example, as we know, it's not really until late September that we see that spike again in terms of attendance. So I do feel that it is a case of when, rather than, you know, it won't be an immediate everyone piles back in, they won't be able to. And I do agree with you. I think do you know what's remarkable, I'm sure you'd agree, is that as soon as you tell the population they can't go out and exercise,
what do they want to do?
So there might be more people that go out for walks, like you know, used to do when I was a kid. When you know, your parents say, right, we're going for a walk, it's a Sunday, come on, and you know, but you did, and I find I go out on my bike, as I say, I go out on my bike probably once a day now, just to get some fresh air, etc., etc. The number of people I'm seeing out walking, I've never seen anything like it.
It's interesting. I think, and there's, you know, almost every press conference that the government does as well is talking about being active and the benefits of a healthy lifestyle and all this stuff. And actually, you wonder whether, you know, it could be that the industry has a whole new marketplace to go after because more people are being more active.
Absolutely. I've pretty strong views on this. I feel that we need to change the way we portray ourselves. We need to believe in ourselves as an industry more. We need to be the physical health service. We need to think of ourselves as, alongside the NHS, as massively important to society. And I do believe that mental health will be the big thing at the end of this. You know, it was bad enough before, but all these people isolated, you know, an increase in domestic abuse, an increase in calls to charities that deal with that kind of thing. You know, that there'll be a huge wave, if you like, I think, of mental health issues. But we are geared up in a great way to help, and that's where I think the industry will move, is into very much into mental as well as physical health.
I was talking to somebody about the industry and the fact that there's maybe challenges about some organisations are kind of maybe perhaps a little bit overly salesy, but most are kind of not salesy enough in terms of selling, you know, the benefits and all this stuff. And I said, well, actually, from my perspective, I think, you know, you've got to be, if you're passionate about something and you believe in it, you've got to look at it as almost like you've got the cure for cancer, and would you be selling the cure for cancer? And actually, in the case of the leisure industry, you kind of, not exactly the cure for cancer, but you are selling the cure for, you know, obesity and loss of life at a younger age, and, you know, and all these other things. And actually, so I think, you know, focusing on those health outcomes, it's got to be the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also some interesting stuff going on about inclusivity, isn't there, and discussions around, you know, how can we get more people that are in certain groups of society, whether that's, you know, demographics or or economically involved as well. Have you got any thoughts around that?
Sorry, in what way? What?
Well, so I think, if you take, I don't know, where I live, my street and a couple of streets around it are all pretty middle class terraced houses, working in the city. And then if you go 2 or 3 streets away, you've got high rise, not really high rise where we are, but blocks of council flats with people who have less disposable income and maybe are less interested in or less apt to go out and exercise, and it's trying to connect with those people maybe that I think if you look at the Sport England national benchmarking survey, I think that some of the metrics in there are about inclusivity, aren't they, as well as just other things. So I do think that this whole sense of community is going to be massive. I mean, I posted on the LFX website the other day a nice story about a young lady. She's a fitness instructor, and basically she gets a sound system outside on the street, and everyone joins in on a daily workout. And I do believe that's. I honestly think, Christian, the big opportunity now for Group X instructors, for fitness, for PTs, is actually to be doing the community work, to be talking to the older members of the public and putting something through the door. I know there's already that going on, but but to associate yourself and your brand, if you like, even if it's you, with being an important part of the community, and therefore, what I do feel could happen is the more exclusive and pricey clubs may charge a little bit more for memberships because there will be distancing rules, there'll be all sorts of hygiene rules, etc., etc. So maybe there'll be a price hike. Who knows? I can only see prices going up, certainly in the short term, because as you say, you can't be selling a low-cost membership for $9.99 a month when you've only allowed 20% of your full capacity within the club, because people just aren't going to sit around and wait. So I think, from that part of the market all the way up, I think prices are going to rise. I think there's also stuff around, we'll get onto this a bit, but my area is hygiene and cleanliness. You've got to improve that, or improve customer service, or improve whatever. You've got to pay for that somehow. So you've got to think about trying to maybe charge a bit more, because actually you're uplifting the standard of what you're delivering and the outcomes you're able to offer to people. So therefore, it's only fair to perhaps charge a little bit more for those improved outcomes and services.
I mean, on that, I've always had a big issue about hygiene, and I think it stems from working for Albert Goubet at Total Fitness, because he was, it was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but he was ruthless when it came to, I remember being at the Wilmslow Club, which was the head office, and he appeared and, come on, Graeme, let's have a walk around the gym. And that was quite a walk. It was a big gym. So, and he would just pull people up and say, "Where's your sweat towel?" And if they said, "Oh, I've not brought it," he would say, "Well, go and buy one."
Yeah.
It was, and if they didn't, then he would offer to meet them at reception and refund them, and so hygiene to him was vitally important for the feel and the experience, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And in my angrier days, I used to tweet stuff about if I saw someone who hadn't washed their hands in a gym or club I was in, I'd get on Twitter and be all angry about it. So I do believe it's going to be very important, and something I really think will happen is that what the perception will be that the gyms that care are the ones that have got hand sanitizer, sprays, if you want to spray down the upholstery. Some acted very quickly with that kind of thing, really did. And because I use a few different gyms, or I did,
Yeah.
And honestly, it was fascinating to see which of them, in my opinion, cared
Yeah.
and which didn't. And the
Yeah.
ones that cared are the ones that think, right, we need to make sure people feel safe and they feel we're doing as much as we can
Yeah. Yeah.
for their personal hygiene.
Mm.
And also, I mean, this will be, you'll like this, but I've been talking to a few CEOs, etc., ops managers,
Mm.
and they're already looking at the whole deep clean thing,
Yeah.
so prior to opening, because some of them see it that the buildings have been closed, they'll be dusty, they'll be dirty, so
Yeah.
let's really go for the whole
Mm.
deep clean, spray,
Yeah.
get everything ready and as hygienic as possible.
Yeah.
For members.
Well, it's a golden opportunity if you look at the situation from a positive perspective. Obviously that's not. I don't want to say that lightly, because a lot of people are suffering right now, of course, in all sorts of ways. But if you
Absolutely.
are able to look at the positives of it, you've got a chance to reinvent and reset. Whether that's doing a deep clean, or whether that's actually reinvigorating layout, or changing the way you're going to deliver classes, or improving your marketing messages, or doing some personal development, or whatever it might be. There's all sorts of ways of trying to take advantage of the close down, and be in a better position when things open up again. Bearing in mind, of course, you can only control what you can control. You can't control what the government's going to say and do and allow you to do.
Exactly. But I just reiterate the point that I really believe that what people will value and what they will tell their friends is that particular club, or that particular sports centre, or that particular gym has gone over and above when it comes to me feeling as safe as possible when I'm in there. I really do. And I think this whole thing of, I was reading something the other day, somebody had said that there'll be this huge surge in pre-sale offers, and before everything opens. I don't believe that at all. I think that what will happen is that operators that know this stuff, particularly with marketing, will be talking about the hygiene and cleanliness of their facilities, the mental health and well-being of their members, and what they're doing out in the community, and what they've done out in the community over recent months. They'll be the key messages.
I think that's a long-term strategic decision, I think, that people will take, whereas others probably will take, let's get selling. But I think you'll probably find that they're the same companies that won't put out enough hand sanitizers and won't invest in a deep clean, and they'll be looking at things in a different way. And I think I just don't. I think the world's going to be a very different place. Well, it is already a different place, and people are going to value different things. And I think that understanding and the kind of compassion, if that's the right word, for the members, and safety, because before, I think a lot of my personal view, I don't know what your view is, but if you go around clubs around the country, I'd say that most of them are could be a lot cleaner, certainly in certain areas of the club, like showers and change rooms and things. But I think people have kind of accepted it more in the past, and I think going forward people won't accept it from a member perspective. And I think the operators also will know that they can't or shouldn't be allowing that to happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think it's that value thing again. I think the value will come in cleanliness, hygiene, and not just for the first few days,
no,
long term. But I also believe that when we do have a vaccine, and this thing's mutating all the time, isn't it? But if we get a vaccine and if things improve, then I do honestly think that in 12 to 18 months' time, people will return to gyms and to facilities, and that the home equipment they've all invested in will again become where you hang, shirt you've just washed or whatever, and we'll be back to where we used to be. in many respects. I do think that will happen.
Yeah, I think there'll be a sort of pendulum swing, and it'll, we'll
Yeah,
go all the way to the extreme, and then it will come back a bit in all sorts of ways. But it's kind of, where do we land? And hopefully we land, in all sorts of ways, in a slightly more positive
absolutely.
perspective, whether that's the environment or society, or how we use gyms, and how fit we try and keep ourselves. Again, I'm trying to look at this as positively as I can, so it probably comes through.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So your plan then over the next 12 to 18 months with LFX, a bit more digital stuff, but continue adding value and continue trying to connect people, and see what we can do to help people on this journey.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, really, when we do an LFX event, certainly in real life, so to speak, it's very much like a chat show. The main events are like a chat show. So, I'd have somebody like you along, and we chat about the things we're talking about now.
Yeah.
And that's the way it works. And people love that, because the audience can get involved. We have a bit of a laugh, because obviously I am probably the funniest person in the industry, to be quite honest. But what this, what this has opened my eyes to is what I said earlier, is that we can just add value. I'm going to start doing a sort of a Friday thing where people can just gather and chat about the week and what's gone on, and I'm going to start that this week. So
good idea.
Yeah, long term, I'm hoping that we get back to some sense of normality. But I'm very lucky, I've got a great group of sponsors with LFX, and they're right behind what we're doing. And one of my colleagues met with them today on Zoom, and they're all coming on Thursday to the mental health one. So, right. We've got some great stuff going on, and thanks to our sponsors for that. Because without them, we honestly couldn't do what we do.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, Graeme, well, I'm conscious of time. Anything that I haven't asked you about that I should have done, or any topics you wanted to touch on that on the tip of your tongue?
Not really, no. I just feel that certainly people will be taking hygiene and all of that a lot more serious, and I think that people like yourself can get involved and advise and consult and help them develop a strategy, not just for the short term, but for long term as well. Because that's where the value will be in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great. Well, how can people get hold of you if they want to come to an event or follow you on Twitter or whatever it might be? What's the best way for people to get in touch?
Maybe not the Twitter, but
my email sounds quite interesting when you see
my email is Graeme, which is Graeme. So it's Graeme at mylfx.com. That's probably the best way to get in touch, or on LinkedIn. Because I think that's how we spoke on Twitter, didn't we? But LinkedIn, yeah. So Graeme is the Graeme. I get some amazing spellings of that name. It's fantastic, even if it's there in front of people.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. So I one of the things I like about my name is I've got the long version, and I can shorten it to Chris, obviously. But if I go and get a coffee from a Starbucks or whatever, I always say Chris, because I think I'll keep it simple. But you'd be amazed, with Chris, like the variety of spellings I've seen over the years, with all sorts of random letters in, and it's unbelievable. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
so that's great.
We'll include that in the on the web page, and when we do the post production of this video, we'll put it on the email on the screen anyway, so people should be able to get it right. And if you're struggling, you can always contact me, and I'll put you in touch with Graeme anyway. Good stuff. All right, Graeme. Well, thanks very much, and we will look forward to catching up with you in the future.
Definitely. Thank you.